Day off?
I didn't take a day off. I was doing interviews, but there was a very slow news day yesterday.
Oh, okay. So you gave me a break.
Did you get a break? You probably did. You still did interviews, I'm sure.
Well, I did a few.
Exactly. You don't do breaks.
But I got a break from you.
Oh, you're welcome. I actually did a good job. I came up with a great theory in the last interview. I became the guest. We flipped the screen, or I became on the other side. We put my description as the expert, my guest's description as former expert, and I became the guest in the.
And who was the former expert?
Just a former JCPOA negotiator and multi-decade diplomat and former soldier, Alan Eyre.
Was he the U.S.? Was he involved with the U.S.?
Yeah, he's a JCPOA negotiator.
Oh,
even speaks Farsi. So
good. No, good for him.
Met Arachi. So I think he was the expert. I think, just to be clear. So while we're going live, we have a thank you note to send to Ibrahim Azizi, the chairman of the National Security and Foreign Policy Committee. And he, just a few minutes ago, let me see exactly, about 11 minutes ago, he posted a bit of a threat to Trump. He said the US president ought to worry about his own security rather than his endless bluffing regarding the Strait of Hormuz before he ends up hiding in a food truck. So some people interpreted that as a bit of a threat. For me, it looks like a troll and a threat together. But
they're having so much fun with the Donald Trump hiding with the chicken pot pies.
So that was posted.
One thing, I'd like to make one comment about that so-called surface-to-air missile threat. So let's just assume that it was real. Gee, what steps could the United States have taken to prevent that, apart from pushing out a security perimeter, which the Turks are quite capable of doing? You know what? Delay the takeoff of the airplane until it gets dark. Turn off all the lights in the airport. So when the planes are taking off, they're taking off in the dark. The guy on the ground, you can't distinguish one plane from another. How would they know what they were shooting at? But no, that's too simple a solution. My God, we can't do that. We gotta smuggle, put Donald Trump in with trays of pate.
Maybe it's just maybe someone from the security apparatus, the intelligence apparatus, that just doesn't like Trump. He's like, you know what? I'm just going to screw with him. Or maybe see Israel is getting revenge for him criticizing Netanyahu. He's like, you know what? We're gonna put Trump in a food truck. So whenever Trump meets Netanyahu and Trump gives him shit, Netanyahu will just say to him privately, "At least I wasn't in a food truck, you loser." So that could be just a strategy.
He felt quite comfortable with all the chicken liver pate.
I'm glad you had fun with it. Yeah, you can show that, Lisa. I think Larry would like it. Lisa found you a nice AI photo someone took.
That's
a nice photo of Trump. That was a leaked photo of Trump.
Smeared with all the food.
No smearing here.
Come on, Lisa. Let's see that picture.
I don't know. She's not showing it. There's an issue with it, with the feed. All right. All good. Oh. You missed the joke. Let me see. Put it on my laptop. Hold on. I'll show it to you.
Oh my God. Yeah. Hey.
Where's that Larry laugh?
Somebody picked up on my use of chicken pot pie and they turned it into a meme. That's cool.
Lisa made the image herself. The producer made the image herself.
Outstanding. She's talented lady.
All right, so there's something unfolding as we speak. There's something pretty important happening in Lebanon. I was speaking to Elijah Magnier earlier in the morning, and you know that we keep hearing about Ali Taher Hill, the hill that Israel has been trying to capture for so long. So apparently that's home to the biggest, or one of the biggest headquarters of Hezbollah in that hill underground. And that's why Israel has been bombing it, not just for the last few weeks or months, but they've been bombing it since 2022. They've been bombing it for a long time. It's a very strategically important hill. And there was an operation to try to capture it yesterday, as we know. And apparently there was reports that the Americans gave a green light for the Israelis to attack it. The Israelis attacked it. The attack reportedly failed. And the operation stopped. And now what we're seeing, you can play the footage I just sent you, Lisa. So there's airstrikes ongoing right now as we're speaking in southern Lebanon, and gunfire has just erupted in Ali Taher Heights, the Bill Hill. You can play that with the audio, Lisa. That's just right now happening as we speak. So Israel is trying to capture the hill, the strategically important Hezbollah hill called the Ali Taher Hill. They've been trying to capture for a long time. Is there audio there, Lisa, or no? There's no audio.
Yeah.
Oh, you can hear it. Yeah, you can hear it. It's just gunfire has erupted. So it could be just a commander raid where what's happened, what Elijah was telling me, commanders would go one of the entrances and try to kind of throw a grenade in there or throw something in there, as well as try to capture it. But yeah, there was an attempt to capture it earlier today. And so according to not the AP, that's, I don't know what outlet that is. I forgot to save it. Lior Ben Ari. So that's an Israeli outlet, I think channel 12 or 13. She says that that's Idioth, sorry. That Israel they got the green light from Trump, and then they launched an attempt to infiltrate and capture the hill. And then an IDF armored vehicle attempted to approach the area, but was struck by Hezbollah, causing casualties. The casualties were confirmed by Israel, which announced a security incident in southern Lebanon. So, things are not looking good on that front.
Well, I think Hezbollah is going to finally say, okay, ceasefire is over, and they're going to start punching back. Now, once again, it's exposed the weakness of the Israeli military. They're the biggest, they're the best in the region. They have been unable to take this damn hill. I mean, remember they claimed that they captured it like 2 months ago. That didn't work out too well.
Just before the fire. So one of my co-hosts, James Rizik, who co-hosts my spaces, and he said Hezbollah has become more aggressive in the last 48 hours. He says the message from Naim Qasim, the head of Hezbollah, yesterday was an aggressive one, plus Hezbollah media, so he was more assertive, plus Hezbollah media being more active in the various groups, and they also released war videos. I don't know if it's old war videos or new one, on multiple channels. So he's saying the rhetoric on Hezbollah is escalating, and he was saying that Hezbollah could no longer cease fire.
Hezbollah has been largely inactive since the ceasefire was declared. They tried to abide by it. It was the Israelis who kept breaking it.
Yeah. Correct. So that's on the Lebanese front. We talked about the people they're interpreting as a threat from the Iranian diplomat, which for me seems more of a troll. Then you've got... so the Iranis have reached, according to Iranian media, they've reached a deal on the Strait of Hormuz with Oman. They haven't announced the details of it. But that does not mean they're going to open the Strait of Hormuz. That means they've got a corridor, they've got a plan on how that would look like, on how the traffic plan would look like, the shipping lanes. But we know that there's terms before they open the Strait of Hormuz, lifting the American blockade, unfreezing assets, lifting sanctions, on, stopping the hostilities in the region, Houthis, Hezbollah, and Palestine, if you remember. We talked about this. And the ceasefire, the MOU, expires on Monday, Tuesday. So that's going to be a pretty important day for the Iranians because they've been abiding by the MOU and using it as their guide. So on Monday, there's multiple clauses that were breached. For example, in Lebanon, we're talking about it. Well, hostilities were meant to end by the end of the MOU in Lebanon. They haven't. Does that mean Iran would now start taking matters in their own hands because the Americans were not able to stop the Israelis? There's strikes on a daily basis in Lebanon. That's one example. Obviously, there's also the issue of the Houthis.
Oh, yeah, well...
And the Iraqi groups as well. The Iraqi government wants to disarm them. I don't think the Iranians would be good with that. I don't think they'll accept it.
The Iraqi government doesn't have the power to disarm them.
Plus that.
I mean, they're about the same position as the government of Lebanon trying to disarm Hezbollah. Good luck with that, guys. Knock yourselves out. I mean, I figure we need to talk about Cafe Mocha. Why?
I'm listening.
Okay. What did the Houthis basically destroy in the last 24 hours?
The Yemeni port and the Saudi pact.
What's the name of that Yemeni port?
Okay.
The Yemeni
Mocha.
port is named
Cappuccino.
Mocha. Mocha. Oh. Do you know where the term Cafe Mocha originated?
Oh, really? From that region?
Yes, because Yemen makes terrific coffee. If you've talked to Pepe about that, man, he said that he's never had better coffee in the world. And Pepe, among all the world travelers, he's probably better positioned than any 5-star, 3-star Michelin chef to talk about that, because he's drank coffee around the world, from Paris and Germany and Italy and Thailand and Vietnam and Yemen. And he said, hands down, coffee in Yemen was the best. And what the origins of this was, the Yemeni coffee traders used to flavor their coffee with chocolate. And the Europeans went, damn, that'd be good. We like that. And hence Cafe Mocha, folks. Learn your geography.
That's the shirt. That's the coffee-looking shirt with the coffee color.
This is Bali, Indonesia.
I was just talking to a friend about Bali.
Yeah. So, but yeah, this is a Bali shirt. Bali high.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Yeah, there's on the Yemeni front, by the way, we're talking about. Yeah, you can show the Mocha port today. I was actually sent it to you on WhatsApp, Lisa, because my Telegram wasn't working. But you can show it for sure. And yeah, the Saudi-backed Yemeni military is getting pounded today by the Houthis. There was at one stage within minutes, I think they fired 6 ballistic missiles at Mocha port, and at least seven people were killed. Vessels were sunk and fishing boats were set on fire. So that was today. So we're talking about a ceasefire that the MOU ends sooner. We don't know how long that ceasefire will last. Trita Parsi posted yesterday. He said he expects. Show what he sent me, Lisa. He said he expects a third round of the war to continue. So a lot of people, including myself, are becoming more pessimistic about what's happening in Iran. But on the while we're waiting to see what happens in Iran, and I had Joshua Landis on my show earlier today, also from the Quincy Institute, and he's saying, Mario, I'm seeing a lot of indications of this looking more and more like showing a lot of indications that it's going to become a forever war. But he thinks it's going to be more of a quagmire-like war rather than a Ukraine-like war where it's just consistent kinetic action on a daily basis. But while we're waiting to see what happens in Iran, in Yemen, in Lebanon, it hasn't stopped, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, it's look, the Saudis are taking a beating, and they will continue to take a beating. They're going to have to, they'll ultimately have to surrender to the Houthis. They don't like to. But it doesn't seem that Pakistan and Turkey have any desire to get back into the middle of this. If you're attacked, we got your back. Well, here it is. Where are you guys?
Yeah, that's not even. It's not even a major. It's joining the Saudi war with the Houthis would be a symbolic way to show that this alliance means something. Because already Pakistan was nowhere to be seen when Saudi was being attacked by Iran. But now with the Houthis also attacking both Saudi and Turkey not being involved, it just weakens the whole premise of the agreement.
Well, I mean, the agreement on paper looks strong, but the reality is, the practical reality of having the 3 different militaries work together, that you only build up that capability over time through joint military exercises, and then in doing those joint military exercises, you got to come up with, are they going to start standardizing equipment across all 3 militaries? That's going to be a little difficult. Turkey is sort of heavily NATO-centered. Pakistan is heavily China-centered. So whose weapon system?
Saudi's extremely U.S. centered, NATO centered.
Well, they have been, but they were sold a lot of crap by the United States that doesn't work.
Yeah, the integration is going to be an issue because it's part of the agreement as well. The integration of the defense apparatus is part of the agreement.
Yeah, you saw the news report that supposedly the Pakistanis, they're going to come in and build 4 new airfields and provide air defense.
To who?
With what? To Saudi.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, with what air defense? I mean, or is China going to be comfortable saying, yeah, we'll let the Saudis get our air defense systems? Because that's what Pakistan might be inclined to use.
Yeah, because the Pakistanis used the Chinese air defense systems against the Indians, haven't they?
Yeah.
Do you know if it worked well?
It seemed to work okay. Again, it doesn't match. The country with the best air defense system in the world right now is Russia. Proven in combat, proven with a variety of daily, taking on a variety of missiles. They've taken on ATACMS and Storm Shadows and drones, and the Russians. Given the Russians, practice makes perfect.
Yeah. All right, so there's on the Lincoln. The Lincoln is being replaced by the Washington, but the issue that was found on the Lincoln also exists on other warships. The Boxer that we've talked about, the USS Boxer as well, there were messages leaked about an hour ago, or people saying an hour and a half ago, requesting tampons and pads from their families to send it to them because they're running out of those. So yeah,
USS Tripoli, it was short. Submarines. I had I think I mentioned to you the other night, I had the mother of one of the submariners reach out to me and say, hey, they had the same thing, food shortage. Apparently and now it makes sense that the United States supply chain relied upon Bahrain and maybe Oman to resupply these ships. And that's turned out to be a bit of a problem, that some of the resupply warehouses have been destroyed. And so now they got to go to Diego Garcia, which is, as they say in the South here, it's a fur piece away. I mean, it's far away.
Yeah. The New York Times did a story on it. And then getting food from Diego Garcia just becomes logistically very difficult because it's an island in the middle of nowhere and it's also very far away from the Persian Gulf. So the logistics hubs that usually are used for resupplying those ships were targeted by the Iranians throughout the war.
Now, one thing I don't know, but it ought to be I need to start looking into this. What has the United States done to its fleet of ship tenders? So ship tenders are the ones that provide resupply to ships at sea. My guess is that those ships, the number of those ships has been depleted in recent years. And they decide, we don't need to build more. We'll just resupply at these ports. Well, what happened to those ports are no longer accessible? Then what?
So you're saying the tenders, the ships that are part of the resupplies that supply those warships, you're saying what exactly? There's not enough of them, or?
Right, not enough.
Why not? Because they haven't been. I don't know if these ships were targeted. I know that the ports were targeted.
It's not a matter of them being. It's not a matter of them being targeted. It's a matter of So the ship tenders were built, I'm guessing, in the 70s and 80s. I'm not aware that there has been increased contracts to build more. And in terms of budget cutting within the Pentagon, again, I'm speculating here. Let me emphasize that. I just looked it up. The U.S. tender fleet is down to 2 ships. Both hulls are 45 years older, and the replacement program won't deliver until the early 2030s. Destroyer tenders no longer exist in the U.S. service at all.
So are they using
Jesus
something else
Christ.
instead? But what are they using instead?
No.
How are they supplying all these warships?
Bahrain and Oman, land-based ports.
Oh.
Yeah. I was guessing, okay. The power of analysis, brother. 2 friggin' ships. And then they wonder why they don't have enough fresh milk and veggies. Because these ships can't be everywhere at once.
Interesting. Yeah, they're so unprepared for this war.
Not just this war. I mean, this is long-standing. This is years in development. I wrote a piece on the.
So I just got it. So, but
go ahead.
Sorry. No. So So I just checked it as well. So it says here, if by tender you mean ships that resupply support warships at sea, the U.S. Navy has 32 combat logistics force ships, 16 fleet oilers, 14 dry cargo ammunition ships, and 2 fast combat support ships. Separately, 2 actual submarine tenders, which provide repair, weapon supplies, and other support. So there's about 32 ships out of the core at sea resupply fleet.
But go back to but not all of those are hauling food. Some of them are hauling munitions. But they don't have any that can resupply destroyers. So the destroyers use vertical launch system missiles. So right away, what used to be if a destroyer uses up its missiles back prior to 2000, a ship tender could show up alongside, and they could offload new missiles, and they could reload, and good to go. Now they have to go into port to do that. But the real question is, what about the ships that carry food?
16 out of the 32.
16
so Lewis
that carry.
And Clark classes 14 carry food, ammunition, spare parts, fuel, and other stores. Let me see when were they built. When were they built? Briefly, because I was talking to I think Anthony Aguilar. He's telling me how these aircraft carriers, how old they are. The latest one is in 2016, but the Lincoln, the Washington, the Bush, these are decades old. And he's also sending me showing me a photo of the Lincoln where Bush was standing on top of the Lincoln, declaring I think something like Operation Successful or something like that. The famous photo after
mission accomplished. Mission accomplished.
Yeah, the irony of it.
That was only 23 years ago.
The supply the Lewis. Go ahead.
I said that'd be the same as standing on the battleship Missouri in August 1945 when it was in Tokyo Harbor, and then jump ahead 23 years. You're 1968 off the coast of Vietnam.
Yeah,
quite a bit of time.
Yeah. All right, so that's on the issue with the U.S. Navy, and so the Washington should be arriving in the region in a couple of weeks. I was looking at it earlier to relieve the Lincoln, so those poor sailors can go back home. On the Hormuz front, another ship got struck today. An Emirati ship got struck by Iran called Al Watan. On the Lebanese front, we've just talked about it. Washington Post put out a piece that I fully agree with. Says frustrations with Washington is growing across the Gulf over Trump's handling of the Iran diplomacy. Trump has repeatedly issued and then withdrawn threats against Iran, and some Gulf states have begun debating the value of continuing to host large U.S. military installations on their territory. A mutual defense pact, the Mecca agreement between Saudi, Turkey, and Pakistan, was described by senior European officials as a signal that diversifying security partnerships beyond Washington is a reasonable solution to the states in the region. Gulf states still lack viable alternatives to their U.S. security partnership, and officials say anger is increasingly directed at Iran as well for refusing to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. A White House official said Iran, quote, is more isolated than ever, and blamed Tehran for choosing violence. But the Gulf countries are in a pretty crappy position, because they've got on one side the Americans are dragged them into this war that didn't need to happen. And then on the other side, the Iranis are pissed off and bombed them in retaliation for them allowing their bases to be used against them. So they're stuck between those two sides. They're getting screwed the most. They're getting screwed by both sides. And right now, their economies are just getting crushed because of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. So pretty shitty situation to be a country in the region.
Well, they made their choice. They decided to align themselves with the United States. They decided that it was a good idea to back the United States in a surprise attack on Iran, an unjustified, illegal attack. And then when they get punched in the nose for allowing such attacks to take place, then they want to cry about it. You should have thought about that before they climbed on board that attack. But that's an article. Wasn't that written by Fareed Zakaria?
I don't know. It's on the Washington Post. I saw it earlier today. Do you want me to check who the author is?
I think it was Fareed Zakaria, if I recall correctly.
From CNN.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the Gulf countries are a pretty screwed up position. Would you like your daily dose of Ben Gvir?
Oh, sure.
Why not? So Ben Gvir today in an interview.
I haven't been waterboarded yet today, so this will substitute for that.
So Ben Gvir in an interview today. And the thing is, I was watching, I should have found the clips. You know what? I'll find the clips so you can play the clip just without the audio, Lisa. Just for people to see his face as he's saying those fucking crazy bullshit stuff.
His corpulent face.
This corpulent face. I've sent it to you on WhatsApp, Lisa. So I'll read out the first quote here. I think targeted eliminations should be carried out in Gaza every night. Take out 30 to 40 people. Not only those who endanger you at that particular moment. There are people who shouldn't be alive. They shouldn't live. I'm already being generous by calling them people. And he says, Inshallah, as quickly as possible, we will enter all of Gaza, settle all of Gaza, and encourage immigration. That's that fucking psycho.
Yeah. What's the difference between him and Heinrich Himmler?
Heinrich Himmler faced justice. This guy is getting people voting for him and asking him to go on a podcast.
Well, actually, Heinrich Himmler killed himself.
Oh. Let's have a look at this. There's another video I was watching earlier. The guy was like telling him, everyone hates you. The whole world hates you. And he's replying something along the lines like, I don't care, with a big smile on his face. How can people vote for this guy?
Hey,
it's insane.
It reveals the nature, the immorality, the inhumanity of the Zionists. I mean, if that was some Islamic spokesman saying that stuff, the world would erupt in outrage.
Yeah,
and justifiably so.
On the military front, we got Erdogan saying we got a promise from Trump that we'll get the F-35 fighter jets. We're waiting for him to fulfill that promise, and that will be very significant because that's something the Israelis will be very upset with if it happens. So it'll be very, very. It'll be very, from a symbolic nature, it'll be a very significant step by the Americans.
Yeah, man, we're going to
fan of the F-35s.
It doesn't matter about me being a fan. I'm just saying the reality of the F-35 is it's $100 million a piece. It's a $40,000 an hour maintenance. And you usually got to do, if the plane's in flight for 2 or 3 hours, you got to do 3 hours of maintenance on it. And 70% of the aircraft will never be combat ready. Think about that. You buy 10, and you're only going to be able to rely upon maybe 2 or 3. Such a deal.
Why was that again? You told me. Why was that? You told me last time. I can't remember. Why can't you rely on the rest of them?
Go back and read the testimony of the Secretary of the Air Force. He gave it now 5-6 weeks ago, and he said the combat readiness of the F-35 is between 20 and 30%. That means if you have to go to combat, you're only going to be able to rely upon 30% of the aircraft because they're a bunch of hangar queens, highly sophisticated aircraft, very expensive, and they spend a lot of time being broke.
Hangar queens.
Yes.
Where'd you get that one from?
Oh man, that's an old expression in the Air Force for useless airplanes. Planes that are supposed to be, they're not a workhorse like the A-10 Warthog. I mean, God, that plane's 55 plus years, no, 60 years old. But in its day, I mean, it's still a damn good plane that is reliable. It's not breaking at every turn. The F-35 is like, oh my God, I broke a nail. I can't go out tonight.
So another story here that's an interesting one that I saved, and it just kind of goes to the state of the U.S. military. This is by Bloomberg. The Pentagon Inspector General has warned that the U.S. military bases across the Pacific are suffering serious infrastructure deterioration, potentially undermining readiness in a regional critical to deterring China. Inspections of 11 facilities found corrosion, holes in buildings, collapsing ceilings, mold, and asbestos. How do you pronounce it?
Asbestos.
Problems affect both military infrastructure and essential support systems, including housing and water. The Kadena Air Base in Japan, a major U.S. air power hub storing $836 million in munitions, was highlighted as particularly degraded. At Kadena, hangars were found rusted, corroded, and in some cases exposed to the outdoors. 243 homes were evacuated because of structural deterioration, while 139 homes were affected by ceiling collapses. Similar problems were identified at Yokota Air Base and Camp Courtney. So the Inspector General issued an unusual management advisory, meaning the problems were considered serious enough to flag the senior Pentagon officials before the broader audit was finished. So it just kind of goes to the situation, the state of the U.S. military. It's got all these bases, those hundreds of bases around the world. While the military itself is bloated, logistically there's issues, there's all these systemic issues as well. And this is the outcome of it after decades of mismanagement, in my view.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it gets worse than that. Now, I had personal experience. So, during the 23 years I was working with Special Operations Command, Joint Special Operations Command. So when we were scripting exercises for SOCOM, which is a MacDill Air Force Base, we did the work out behind headquarters in what was called the Credit Union Building. And up on the third floor of the Credit Union Building was they built a SCIF, a Secure Classified Information Facility, SCIF, but they call it SCIF. Had black mold. I mean, black mold inside in the ceiling and the bathrooms. That shit makes you sick.
That's why you're coughing right now. Still impacts you till today.
No, that was I swallowed wrong with cigar smoke, but it's like that. But then I don't know if you read the recent article that just came out. I think it came out yesterday about the munitions plant that was built in Texas. That General Dynamics, I believe it was, spent $538 million building. They started, I guess, in 2023. To build a factory to produce 155 millimeter shells. And you know how many shells they produce there?
0. I think we talked about it, yeah.
Yeah, 0. And they've shut it down.
Delays and stuff. Oh, they've shut it down?
They've shut it down. Because I guess they decided, well, they bought a bunch of Turkish robots that are apparently, the Turks, they're real good at Turkish coffee. Not so good at Turkish robots, okay? A Turkish
3 countries today in one day.
Yeah, Turkish version of baklava, top man, really good stuff. They don't call it baklava because I guess that's the Greek word, but it's still the same. Pastry, nuts, honey, beautiful.
Great, insult them further.
But apparently, when you read the article, these robot arms would be swinging wildly. They'd be breaking other equipment, and then they were dripping with oil. And they'd pick up something that was like 1,800 degrees, and they'd catch fire. And so you spend $500 million to produce 155 millimeter shells, and the U.S. government's action was, okay, shut it down. It's not working.
Where was it?
I think it was in Dallas.
And do you know who the piece was? It's by General Dynamics, yeah?
Simplicius, the thinker, he just wrote a piece about it.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I want to read it. I've just searched for it now, so I'll read it later.
Yeah,
the General Dynamics 155 millimeter artillery shell factory in Mesquite, Texas, near Dallas.
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah, I'll send it to my team to post about it.
The bombshell report was Simplicius's article.
There's a summary: Dallas area General Dynamics factory, massive technical problems, $500 million spent, 0 usable shells. They've halted 2 of the 3 production lines after General Dynamics missed 8 deadlines. The failure became major news this week because of the new investigation and reporting.
And you know what they did to General Dynamics because of that fuck up?
Yeah, go ahead.
They gave him another $2.6 billion for other contracts. Hey, if you've lost $500 million, that's okay, guys. We'll give you some more money. Got to keep those shareholders happy. I mean, this is, like I said, if we were talking about something that didn't involve, the use of military force and the killing of people, it would be hilarious. But this is, we're not just talking about one. We're talking about multiple areas of failure in the Department of Defense across all branches: Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines. Marines are probably the least affected of the 3 services. But this is just one more example. They can't even produce one shell. In fact, the story is when they opened the factory, they had all these shells lined up. One of the workers went over and goes, God, where'd this come from? Picked it up. It was plastic. They staged fake shells in order to make it look like they were doing something. It was all PR.
That's Ali Taher. This phosphorus looks like phosphorus shelling on Ali Taher Hill. So they're still trying to capture it. Do you think they'll be able to capture it?
No.
So then you've got also in the last 24 hours, since we didn't speak yesterday, Bloomberg has reported that the Trump administration is preparing unprecedented economic pressure against Iran to force a deal. Meanwhile, the CENTCOM, Brad Cooper, the CENTCOM commander, was in Israel. And according to Channel 13, he was saying that he said, we may very well have no choice but to resume fighting and we'll need you for joint strikes. And then he starts praising the IDF, a nation of warriors, etc. So you've got on one side Bloomberg, and even Trump made a similar comment that they're going to implement unprecedented economic pressure. I think Trump mentioned it. Bessent mentioned it as well. He called it, he gave it a name, something fury, economic fury maybe.
Yeah.
Let me see. There it is. From epic fury to economic fury. At the president's order, we have raised the level even again. So this is Bessent. So yesterday you've got Trump and Bessent and Bloomberg reporting that economic pressure, economic warfare is going to be the strategy. CENTCOM talking about, the CENTCOM commander talking about military strikes are inevitable. Maybe he's assuming that the military pressure won't work, or he knows that the Iranians, if the economic pressure works, if their economy suffers, if it works, as I've said before, the Iranians will be like, all right, cool, well done. You got a strategy. It's hurting us. It's actually working, Trump. Well done. So what we're going to do is we're going to do where we know we will win and we have the upper hand. We're going to start preemptively striking you until you stop your sanctions or you stop your blockade. So at the end of the day, it's just a lose-lose situation that if you conduct economic warfare, it fails. It failed. It's a waste of time and money and hurts the global economy. If they conduct it and it works, well, it will fail because the Iranians will just go back to kinetic action, and that's where the US struggles again. So I just don't see a scenario where that would work, but that happened yesterday as well. So
Well, you said something at the outset about Iran being more isolated now than ever. And you were not, that
according to that
wasn't your
piece.
view.
Yeah.
You were quoting some piece.
Yeah.
Really? More isolated now than ever? How does that work? 2015, Russia and China were fully aligned with the West in sanctions against Iran. Today, they're not. Full trade relations with Iran. Does that sound like isolation to you?
Before you had Iran, a pariah state, in a way, a pariah state with all these alliances forming, Israel, the UAE, Pakistan, Turkey, Saudi, because they've been discussing these alliances for years. And all their spheres of influence in different regions. And the Iranians only had Hezbollah, the Houthis mainly. That was it. And obviously support from China and Russia. Well, now the Iranians are going to be being part of the...
they didn't have support from China. They had minimal support from China and Russia.
Minimal.
Remember, not just minimal. Remember, Russia and China were fully supporting economic sanctions on Iran. And then when did that stop? That stopped last September.
Yep.
When
even regional countries as well.
When they tried to do the snapback sanctions on Iran, and the UN said, "Yeah, we're going to," and China and Russia said, "No, we're done with that. And we're gonna trade freely with Iran." And so what it's done is Iran has now moved outside the U.S. before the United States could pressure them, because U.S. dollar, petrodollar, man, that was the only game in town. Not the only game in town anymore. China set up a complete alternative financial system, as have Russia, outside of the control of the West. That's what they're using. So Iran isolated? No, just the opposite.
Yeah, exactly. What I was saying is that even regionally right now, there's talks about Iran joining the Mecca agreement. The Emiratis sending money to Iran. Well, the Emiratis have always done business with Iran, but we're going to see Iran included in a lot of these. The war was meant to capitalize on the isolation of Iran and the domestic weaknesses the Iranians were facing. And instead, what the war ended up doing is handing Iran control of the Strait of Hormuz, which now have made him a pretty major regional player. So, yeah, pretty big fuck up. All right, so you've got the CENTCOM commander's comments, Besant's comments, Trump's comments. There's a report here from various outlets about Iran reportedly shifting the war from defense to offense. So their strategy is going to be shifting. These appointments are an indication of that, where the Iranians are more willing to strike ships. They're more willing to strike the American bases if the Americans do things like a blockade, like a land blockade. I know that's impossible to implement anyway, but increasing sanctions. If they try things internally within Iran, try sabotage operations, the Iranians before, if there was a sabotage operation, it is what it is. The Iranians may conduct some sort of asymmetric response. Now, if there's a sabotage operation, I wouldn't be surprised if you see missiles fly out of Iran against American targets. Ships were struck yesterday. A lot of action in Yemen, and also yesterday there was reports that the Houthis struck Aramco, an Aramco facility again in Najran. No confirmations beyond Yemeni media outlets, unless you've heard something. So, on all fronts, it's looking pretty bleak. I know it's pretty slow in terms of the news cycle, but everything's heading in a pretty dangerous direction, unfortunately.
Well, it's heading in a direction where the United States has less control over Iran, and its ability to pressure Iran is becoming weaker, not stronger.
Yeah.
So from the standpoint, that's not bleak for Iran. That's actually, we're taking on the world's superpower, and we're okay.
Bleak for peace, yeah, because. You know about, obviously, my infamous optimism that I think the war's over. Well, it was actually accurate. So by my optimism that the war's over, well, that's becoming less and less so because of Trump seems unwilling to just walk away. He does not want to admit defeat. And the Iranians are unwilling to give up on their conditions. I wouldn't even call it requirements. Now, one of my guests said, Mario, don't even mention them as concessions on the American side. They're conditions being set by the Iranians as the ones that won the war. So the Iranians have the and non-negotiable conditions. Trump wants to walk away without seeming like he lost the war. And this impasse is what's worrying. And if you see the appointments, as we've talked about before, the appointments by Mujtaba Khamenei are people. Actually, Alan Eyre made a very interesting observation. He said, Mario, the most interesting appointment is the head of the Basij. All the other appointments are ones that were expected because they were in that position already. But he's like, Mario, the person that was appointed as the head of the Basij that takes care of domestic security is someone that was one of the commanders, I think, in the IRGC intelligence arm. And he's like, Mario, what that indicates is that they want to integrate, or there was a report today, by the way, they're integrating the command structure of the army and the IRGC, but they want to also integrate the army,
militia.
the IRGC and the army, the militia with the Basij, with the domestic security apparatus. So there is that. What is it? That kind of not a communication, but they'll be working together to counter any hostile threats because they expect the war to continue. They expect the Americans and the Israelis to conduct operation to cause instability within Iran, and they want the Basij to work with the IRGC and the army in countering those. So if something happens domestically, the response may involve the army and the IRGC. So they're intertwining all of it, which is an indication that they are preparing for a prolonged conflict. Doesn't mean they want war, but they might think that it's become unavoidable.
Yeah. Look, Iran's playing a long game. I mean, they've been at this for 47 years, where they've been the target of the United States. You know, the current U.S. rhetoric pretends that Iran's been attacking us. Oh, nonsense. It's a nice narrative, but it's false. Whereas we've been attacking them, and we've been engaged in terrorism against Iran. And, the Iranians are they would just as soon not have to deal with the United States at all, which is sort of unfortunate because the Iranians actually were sort of, they still liked America, the American people. But the American government, what it stands for, they despise, and justifiably so.
Did you, to wrap up, did you see I think we talked about it briefly. Remember the video of Jackson Hinkle being in Iran calling down with the USA? Down with the USA? What do you, I chatted to him about it yesterday. What do you make of this?
Well, what did he say?
He said down with the USA. He would chant it and then thousands of people would repeat after him. Oh, what did he say in the interview yesterday?
Yeah.
So he offered the context where one, he came on, he wasn't expecting to come on stage. He came on, I think the chants were already ongoing, or someone else was leading the chants, and he just took over. I'm not sure about that one. I could be wrong about that one. But he did say also at the beginning that there was a distinction made that we don't hate, someone speaking in Farsi, I think, but saying we don't hate the Americans, we hate the American leadership, and our problems are the American leadership. So there is a distinction there, which I expected that to be the case, because even the Supreme Leader said, when he said death to America, he clarified those years ago that he meant death to American foreign policy, not even leadership, foreign policy, which is what he said then. But it was a good conversation. I've always liked what Jackson does in terms of traveling the world and interviewing people that the mainstream media doesn't interview. I think it's good. More people need to hear those voices. He's done a lot of coverage when it comes to, for example, the Houthis. He went there a couple of times. Hezbollah as well. But I also know he kind of uses the shock factor really, really effectively. He does things that one would consider shocking. I remember one of my debates, he came on, the first thing he said was, Hamas should have a nuclear weapon, which I don't think he even believes. But his debater, the person that was debating him, just lost his shit. Some pro-Israeli guy went just crazy, got all red and fell into the trap. But I don't know. I'm a free speech guy, obviously. But when you go to another country and call for down with your own country, I don't know if you cross the line. I think it should be legal. I think you should be allowed to do it. Was it the right thing to do? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, let's just flip it. Do we allow former Iranian officials to come to the United States and call for the destruction and death of the current government? Yeah. And we think,
It's not
hey,
whether
we
we
think
do. It's whether the Iranians do, though.
Well, but the United States does it, and it's okay. And when it happens in Iran, it's all of a sudden not okay. Now, let's pick a standard. Let's say if the standard is that nobody from another country may visit a country that's an adversary of their country and call for the demise of that country, then let's put that across the board, and therefore nobody can say anything bad about any other country. Well, that's not going to happen. Jackson, he's an American, has the right to say what he wants. And the United States would get upset with it. I don't think he's planning on coming back to the States anytime soon.
Randy Fine put out a letter. Him and some other member of Congress put out a letter calling for, they want to charge him with treason, which I think punishable by death, which obviously I think is fucking stupid. But yeah, I'm sure he's not going to be able to come to the U.S. At least not in the near future.
So we have a number of Americans in exile in Russia. Ed Snowden and Jackson.
There's another guy as well. There's a guy who, I forgot his name. I interviewed him. He was a crypto guy. He went to North Korea, just him and his friends. He's a really nice, chill guy. Very non-political at all. Just did a presentation about what blockchain is in North Korea. And then came back home, no problems at all. And a while later, him and his friend were arrested. No, his friend was arrested. He was able to escape. He was arrested in Saudi or the Emirates, I think Saudi, and then later was able to escape to Russia, extradited to Russia, for providing intelligence to North Korea on how to use crypto to be able to scam the US. Just some stupid allegations. But based on the story he told me, it seemed that the American, whatever it was, the CIA or whatever it was, were capturing him as a way to use his story to paint crypto in a negative light. Because that was many years ago when there was like a war, the administration was fighting against crypto, and they wanted to create that image that crypto's bad, crypto's evil. So that was the objective of it. But yeah, his friend went to jail for a few years, just got out recently, I think. And he's an exile in Russia. Really nice guy. He doesn't deserve it at all. Just for giving a presentation on how blockchain works. Basic presentation. The North Korean could just watch it on YouTube. It's nothing, presentation is like publicly available information. It's nothing, nothing groundbreaking. But, and he's in exile in Russia as well.
Yeah.
Yep, that's it. That's it for today. We'll see what happens on Monday in a couple of days when the MOU expires. Fingers crossed. I'm not optimistic.
Well, in celebration of the Houthi victory, go have yourself a Mocha coffee before you go to bed.
I'm not going to have a coffee before I go to bed.
Obviously, you couldn't live in Argentina.
You were just dying to ask me that question. I remember you like, are we going to talk about Mocha, Mario? And just pause just to see my reaction. It's like you were waiting for that moment. You were waiting for that moment.
Well, I figured I was betting that you may not have made that connection yet.
No, I have a feeling.
And look, everybody that tuned in to listen to you to watch tonight, they've learned something new. So next time they go to Starbucks and order a Mocha, hey, I'm in solidarity with the Houthis. Give me a Mocha coffee.
You like that one?
Yeah, I entertain myself a lot.
I can see. That's accurate. Larry, always a pleasure.
All right, my friend. Take care.